ends up becoming more important. Because it's through the journey from their ordinary world, through these tests and things, that they become a hero. Most heroes are not heroes when this starts. They become heroes at the end. And he has to, on top of that, he has to form allies, and obviously lots of frogs showing up at the pain fight. So anyway, he has to go through an ordeal of death and rebirth, which basically, the whole ordeal of death and rebirth basically means you have to go into the underworld, either literally or figuratively. And the frog realm basically is an underworld of sorts. And then you have to be reborn. Alright? And then there's the reward, the seizing of the sword. And I would say in this situation, this is where when Naruto shows up in a poof of smoke with pain, with a big scroll on his back and that kick-ass trench coat. Yeah. And he's like, frog eyes, mofo! That was awesome. I'm sorry, I peed a little. I did. It was great. It was incredible. I loved it. And then I was like, yes! And then, of course, I cried a few episodes later, but we'll get to that. But then there's the road back, and that's kind of that moment, and I loved it in right before the pain fight. You've got people are dying left and right. I'm bawling my eyes out because I'm like, Kakashi's dead. Shikamaru, I think, might be dead. Konohamaru, I think, might be dead. I'm freaking out. Tsunade is like, she's probably dead. I'm losing my mind. And Sakura's crying over dead bodies, and she screams Naruto's name. And I'm like, glorious! I don't know why, but I loved it. And that was kind of the moment where the heroes called back. And I love it because they integrate, like I said, the two Guineveres. Hinata and Sakura really get integrated into Naruto's return. Because when he gets back, what's happening to Naruto? Hinata. She's getting her butt handed to her by pain. The dude is like stabbing stuff through her limbs and pinning Naruto to the ground. She keeps trying to get up to help him, and she keeps getting knocked back down. He picks her up like 60 feet in the air and slams her into a crater. And she keeps getting back up. That's awesome. I love that. Not that she's getting beaten. I love watching a woman get beaten by a man. It really didn't sound right, did it? So anyway, he makes the road back. He gets back there, and that's the moment of resurrection. And the resurrection is also a moment of redemption. And that's one of the things I really like about it, is because Naruto's return and his fight with pain is not only a moment of resurrection, it's a moment of redemption, not only for him, but also for Jiraiya and for Pain. Because pain is a common theme in Naruto. Pain is a victim, in a sense, of the world he's come to know. He's come to understand the world based on his experience, which is all any of us can do. We understand the world based on our own experience. There is no one on this planet who does anything and goes, this is a horrible idea. Like, this is the worst possible thing I can do, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is going to have terrible consequences. It's going to be a horrible outcome. People are going to get hurt, and I am completely unjustified for doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Right? Sociopaths aside, it doesn't usually happen. People have to justify. That's how we work. How you doing? Good to see you. I feel like I should do something right now. So now he returns. Now it says here, return with the elixir. And really, elixir just means, like I said, a boon. The weapon, the power, the sage mode thing. And that's more or less the completion of his hero's journey. And bring us back to our little bullet list here. We love the bullet list. In the end, it is the journey, as I said, not the destination, that is of the greatest value to Naruto. Because in his time, during the meditation, he learns to control his anger. And when he sees pain, he wants nothing more than to rip that dude's head off. And you can't really blame him. I mean, the guy killed the closest thing to a father Naruto's even known up to this point. And we'll get more into the father stuff here in a little bit. But it's that realization, and they call it the heroic realization, which I think is kind of funny, which is, it isn't about me. How many of you have kids? How many of you felt guilty after having your first child? I felt like the worst human being on the planet when my first child was born. I did. I was like, I've been the most selfish, worthless. I once told my mother I hated her. I cried. I was like, I'm a horrible human being. What have I done? Because I suddenly realized it isn't about me. And we spend most of our life thinking it's about me. And most people in adulthood at some point, whether it's through children or just life experience, they come to the realization that it isn't about you. Sometimes it's about you, but most of the time, not about you. Now, there are self-important hipster brats, of course, who don't ever come to this realization, and that's okay. They get reality shows and watch them. It's okay. We need entertainment somehow. But Naruto returns to Konoha and he defeats pain, and what I love is that he doesn't necessarily forgive pain. He doesn't say, like, you know what, dude, no harm, no foul. Like, no, he doesn't do that. But he chooses not to take revenge. Why not? Right. Up to this point, revenge, and this is something we see in the Arthur myth as well, where you have one land baron who attacks another baron, and then that guy's nephew or cousin or somebody comes back, kills him, then somebody, and the next thing you know, everybody in the entire country is an enemy. That was basically what was going on in the Arthur myth when Arthur became king. Everybody was everyone's enemy. Pretty much the same place Naruto's at now. You know, with the Ninja Alliance, which was pretty sweet, they finally have kind of gotten to a point where they're all joined together, but they're not all joined together through peace. They're all not like, you know, hey, we forgive, we all did stuff wrong. Alright? But if we keep taking revenge on each other over and over again, trust me, ask the old Northern Europeans, like the Norse and the Slavs, how well civilization works when revenge is the centerpiece of your civilization. It doesn't work well. Bad things happen. You get to be king for like 2 days before someone stabs you to death. That's how that works. But what I love is that the whole thing ends with his lifelong dream being realized. By journeying into the other world, acquiring this power, he comes back, saves Konoha, and he finally kind of gets that moment of acknowledgement, that moment of recognition where everyone in Konoha says, you know what, Naruto's not such a bad guy. He saved all of our lives. I guess we'll stop making fun of him now. And yes, when they're like bouncing him up in the air, I cried a little. Like, much more than probably a grown man should be crying about. But I did. And I had no shame. I mean, when Gaara died, I'm still living that down. That's why you don't watch Naruto in those moments when friends are around. Especially not guy friends, because they're not going to understand. And I just wanted to, this is a quote from Joseph Campbell I'm a big fan of, that when we quit thinking primarily about ourselves, we undergo, and there should only be one A there, truly heroic transformation of consciousness. And I thought it was kind of interesting. The quote just kind of fits in there. So, moving on. How am I doing on tonight? Not too bad. Holy crap, only 20 minutes have gone by. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. No. So now, we're going to look at some more recent stuff that's been going on. From like towards the end of his encounter with pain to his recent attempts, but again, spoiler alert, his recent attempts to learn to control the Kyuubi. A lot of this, what I thought was very interesting, is a lot of these elements that he's encountering are part of the model of the psyche, which was designed by Carl Jung, who's a psychoanalyst and mythologist. He was one of the first people to try to integrate symbols from mythology into psychoanalytical teaching. He was a student of Freud, but don't hate him for that. Because he was also a student of Freud until he was like, you know, Freud, it's not all about our moms, dude. And it's not all about the other stuff you're talking about. And Freud was like, alright, GTFO. Like, you know. And he was like, fine, I'll take my toys and leave. And so he did. And he wrote a lot of books about what he called the model of the psyche. And it's where he broke up basically all the stuff that's going on up here into this little model. Now, this is the one that I found from Joseph Campbell, who, there are different ways of showing this, but I thought this one was fairly accurate. Now, the self, which is the who you are, exists directly between this line, between basically the conscious world and the unconscious world. Alright? It's a mix of the two. Up here, on the conscious side, you have what's called the persona. That's you, that's the mask, is what that means.